Welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of British copper coinage to explore the top 3 most valuable United Kingdom 1-penny coins. These historic pennies are prized not only for their age, but also for their rarity, minting variations, unique conditions, and strong demand at auction. Whether found in pristine condition or heavily worn, certain 1-penny coins can be worth far more than their face value. Let's take a detailed look at the most valuable examples, covering different years, mint marks, conditions, and what truly makes them so desirable to collectors. Let's get started. First up, the United Kingdom 1-penny dated 1935, examined specifically in circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may appear modest, even ordinary, especially to those who are not deeply familiar with numismatics. However, behind its worn copper surface lies a rich story of British history, royal symbolism, minting tradition, and collector demand that has grown steadily over the decades. Today, we will explore why the 1935 UK 1-penny remains important, how circulated and damaged examples are viewed in the collector market, and what kind of auction value this coin can realistically achieve in US dollars. Whether you are a seasoned collector, a beginner just entering the hobby, or someone who has discovered an old penny in a drawer or inherited collection, this detailed guide will help you understand the true significance of this classic British coin. To fully appreciate the 1935 United Kingdom 1-penny, we must first place it within its historical context. The year 1935 falls during the reign of King George V, one of the most influential monarchs of the early 20th century. George V ruled from 1910 until his death in January 1936, making the 1935 penny one of the final coins issued during his reign. This period in British history was marked by recovery from World War I, economic uncertainty during the Great Depression, and the gradual modernization of British society and industry. Coinage from this era reflects stability and continuity, values that were especially important to the British public at the time. The 1-penny denomination itself had a long and respected history in the United Kingdom. For centuries, pennies were an essential part of everyday commerce, used by people from all social classes. By 1935, the penny was deeply ingrained in British daily life, often used for small purchases, transportation, and food items. The Royal Mint continued to strike pennies in large quantities to meet the demands of circulation, and the 1935 issue was no exception. However, despite its relatively high mintage, the coin's age, historical importance, and connection to the final year of George V's reign contribute significantly to its collector appeal today. The design of the 1935 UK 1-penny is both iconic and symbolic, representing centuries of British coinage tradition. On the obverse, the coin features the portrait of King George V, facing left. This portrait was designed by Sir Bertram McKennell and is often regarded as one of the most dignified and realistic depictions of a British monarch on coinage. The king is shown bareheaded, emphasizing simplicity and authority, while the surrounding Latin inscription reads, Georgives V Dei Gra, Brit, Omn, Rex, which translates to George V, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons. The reverse of the coin showcases the famous Britannia design, a symbol that had appeared on British copper coinage since the 17th century. Britannia is depicted seated, holding a trident in her right hand and a shield bearing the Union Jack in her left. The sea at her feet represents Britain's naval power and maritime heritage, while the trident symbolizes strength and authority over the oceans. The date 1935 appears prominently below Britannia, with the denomination 1-penny above. This classical design connects the coin to centuries of British tradition, making it especially attractive to collectors who appreciate historical continuity. The 1935 1-penny was struck in bronze, an alloy consisting primarily of copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. This composition gave the coin its distinctive reddish-brown color when new, although circulated examples often display darker tones, wear, and patina due to decades of handling and environmental exposure. The coin has a diameter of approximately 30.8 mm and a weight of around 9.45 grams, making it a substantial and satisfying piece to hold. Circulated examples frequently show smoothing of the high points, particularly on the king's portrait and Britannia's figure. In heavily circulated or damaged condition, details such as facial features, shield lines, and lettering may appear faint or partially worn away. However, many collectors value this wear as a testament to the coin's long journey through history, having passed through countless hands during its time in circulation. When we refer to a coin as being in circulated condition, we mean that it was actively used in everyday transactions and shows visible signs of wear. For the 1935 UK 1-penny, circulated condition can range from lightly worn to heavily worn or even damaged. Lightly circulated examples may still retain much of their original detail, while heavily circulated pieces often show flattened design elements, scratches, edge nicks, or discoloration. In numismatic grading terms, Circulated coins typically fall into categories such as fine, very fine, or good. A 1935 penny in good condition may have significant wear but remains identifiable, with the date and major design elements still visible. Coins in fine or very fine condition show more detail and are generally more desirable. However, even damaged or well-worn examples of the 1935 penny maintain value due to their age and historical significance. While the 1935 one penny is not considered extremely rare in terms of original mintage, its availability in higher grades has declined over time. Many examples were melted, lost, or excessively worn beyond recognition. As a result, collector demand has increased, particularly for coins that retain clear dates and readable inscriptions. Interestingly, there is also a growing niche market for damaged or heavily circulated coins, especially among collectors who focus on historical artifacts rather than pristine condition. For some collectors, a damaged 1935 penny tells a more compelling story than an uncirculated example. Scratches, edge wear, and discoloration can reflect decades of real-world use, possibly during economically challenging times. These characteristics make the coin appealing to history enthusiasts and budget-conscious collectors who want an authentic piece of British history without the higher cost associated with mint-condition specimens. Additionally, collectors assembling date runs or monarch sets often seek at least one example of each year, regardless of condition. This sustained demand ensures that even circulated and damaged 1935 pennies continue to trade actively in the collector market. The auction market plays a crucial role in determining the value of the 1935 UK one penny. Online auction platforms, numismatic auctions, and coin shows regularly feature these coins, allowing buyers and sellers from around the world to participate. Prices realized at auction depend on several factors, including condition, eye appeal, originality, and market demand at the time of sale. Circulated examples often attract competitive bidding due to their affordability and historical interest. Collectors in the United States, in particular, are drawn to British pre-decimal coinage as part of broader world coin collections. The international appeal of British coins helps support steady prices, even for coins that are not considered rare in absolute terms. When discussing the current market value in US dollars, it is important to understand that prices can vary widely. As of recent market trends, a heavily circulated or damaged 1935 UK one penny typically sells for $434,000 at auction. Coins in average circulated condition, with clear details and moderate wear, often achieve prices in the range of $216,000. Better preserved circulated examples, such as those graded very fine, can sell for $114,000, depending on demand and eye appeal. It is worth noting that exceptional examples, even if lightly circulated, may fetch higher prices if they exhibit attractive toning or minimal damage. While uncirculated specimens can command significantly higher values, our focus today remains on circulated condition, which represents the majority of surviving coins. These price ranges demonstrate that even a common date penny can hold meaningful value, especially when viewed as a historical collectible rather than loose change. Factors that influence value. Several key factors influence the auction value of a 1935 one penny. Condition is the most obvious, but originality is equally important. Coins that have not been cleaned or altered are generally preferred by collectors. Natural patina, even if dark or uneven, is often more desirable than an artificially bright surface. Additionally, clear and readable inscriptions, a visible date, and a recognizable portrait all contribute positively to value. Market timing also plays a role. Prices may rise during periods of increased interest in British coinage or during anniversaries related to King George V. Conversely, market saturation can temporarily soften prices if many examples are offered simultaneously. For collectors interested in acquiring a 1935 UK one penny, there are several important tips to keep in mind. First, always examine the coin carefully, paying attention to signs of cleaning or artificial enhancement. Second, buy from reputable sellers or established auction platforms whenever possible. Third, consider your collecting goals. If historical significance is your priority, a well-worn example may be perfectly suitable. If investment potential is a concern, aim for the best condition your budget allows. Storing the coin properly is also essential. Keep it in a protective holder, away from moisture and extreme temperatures, to prevent further deterioration. Even circulated coins deserve careful preservation, as their value and appeal can increase over time. Beyond monetary worth, the 1935 one penny holds substantial educational value. It serves as a tangible link to pre-war Britain, the reign of George V, and the traditional copper coinage system that existed before decimalization. For students, historians, and collectors alike, this coin offers an opportunity to connect with the past in a personal and meaningful way. Conclusion: the United Kingdom 1 penny dated 1935, even in circulated or damaged condition, remains a compelling and valuable piece of numismatic history. While it may not be the rarest coin ever minted, its historical significance, classic design, and enduring collector demand ensure its place in the market. With auction values ranging from a few dollars to several tens of dollars depending on condition, this coin proves that age, history, and authenticity matter just as much as rarity. Whether you own one already or are considering adding it to your collection, the 1935 UK 1 penny stands as a lasting reminder of Britain's rich monetary heritage and the stories that even the smallest coins can tell. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny dated 1915, examined specifically in dirty and heavily circulated condition. At first glance, a dirty old penny from more than a century ago might seem insignificant, easy to overlook, or even dismiss as worthless spare change from the past. However, for collectors, historians, and auction buyers around the world, the 1915 UK 1 penny holds a deeper importance that goes far beyond its modest appearance. This coin was struck during one of the most dramatic and turbulent periods in modern history, World War I, and every worn surface, darkened patch, an embedded layer of grime tells a silent story of survival, commerce, and everyday life during wartime Britain. In this video, we will take a long and detailed journey into the background of the 1915 1 penny, exploring its historical setting, design, and physical features, and the reasons why even dirty and damaged examples remain desirable today. We will also break down collector demand, rarity perceptions, and most importantly, the auction market value in US dollars, helping you understand what such a coin might realistically be worth if you were to sell or buy one. Whether you are a seasoned numismatist, a casual collector, or someone who has stumbled upon an old, grimy penny in a drawer or inherited collection, this guide will give you a clear and informed perspective on this remarkable coin. To truly appreciate the 1915 United Kingdom 1 penny, we must first understand the historical environment in which it was produced. The year 1915 sits firmly in the early years of World War I, a global conflict that reshaped nations, economies, and societies. Britain was deeply involved in the war effort, mobilizing millions of soldiers, redirecting industrial production, and placing immense strain on its economy. Despite these pressures, the Royal Mint continued to produce everyday coinage, including the 1 penny, to ensure that commerce and daily life could continue as normally as possible on the home front. The 1915 penny was issued during the reign of King George V, who ascended the throne in 1910. His reign covered one of the most challenging periods in British history, including the war, economic uncertainty, and social change. Coins from this era are especially significant because they represent continuity and stability at a time when much of the world was experiencing chaos and loss. The penny, in particular, was essential for everyday transactions, used by working-class families, soldiers on leave, shopkeepers, and children alike. It is also important to note that wartime conditions affected materials, labor, and minting priorities. Although bronze pennies continued to be struck, resources were increasingly directed toward military needs. This context adds historical weight to the 1915 1 penny, making it more than just a piece of copper alloy. It becomes a tangible artifact of wartime Britain. In 1915, the 1 penny was a powerful unit of currency in daily life. It could purchase basic food items, newspapers, or public transportation fares. For many families, pennies mattered greatly, especially as wartime inflation and shortages began to affect household budgets. As a result, pennies circulated heavily, passing through countless hands over many years. This explains why so many surviving examples today are worn, dirty, or damaged. The dirt and grime seen on many 1915 pennies are not simply signs of neglect, they are physical evidence of prolonged circulation. These coins were carried in pockets, purses, and tills, exposed to sweat, soil, grease, and industrial environments. Each stain and discoloration adds to the coin's historical authenticity, reinforcing its role as a true working object of its time. The design of the 1915 UK 1 penny follows the classic and enduring style that had defined British copper coinage for generations. On the obverse, we see the left-facing portrait of King George V, designed by Sir Bertram Mackennal. This portrait is widely respected for its realism and dignity, portraying the king without excessive ornamentation. The surrounding inscription reads Georgievs v Dei Gra, Brit, Omn, Rex, affirming the monarch's authority and divine right to rule. The reverse features the iconic image of Britannia, seated and holding a trident, with a shield bearing the Union Jack resting at her side. Britannia has long symbolized Britain's strength, resilience, and maritime dominance. In the context of 1915, this imagery took on even greater meaning, as Britain relied heavily on its navy and global connections during the war. The denomination 1 penny appears above Britannia, with the date 1915 clearly displayed below. Even on dirty or worn examples, the core elements of this design are often still visible. Collectors value the fact that, despite years of circulation and environmental exposure, the symbolism remains recognizable and powerful. Characteristics: the 1915 one penny was struck in bronze, composed primarily of copper with small amounts of tin and zinc. When freshly minted, the coin would have displayed a warm reddish-brown color. Over time, exposure to air, moisture, and handling caused the surface to darken, resulting in the brown or nearly black appearance commonly seen on dirty examples today. The coin measures approximately 30.8 millimeters in diameter and weighs around 9.45 grams. Its relatively large size made it durable and easy to handle, but also meant it was frequently exposed to friction and impact. Dirt often becomes embedded in the recessed areas of the design, such as around Britannia, the lettering, and the king's portrait. While some collectors prefer cleaner coins, many experienced numismatists recognize that original dirt and patina are signs of authenticity and long-term circulation in coin collecting. Dirty condition refers to coins that have accumulated surface grime, dark toning, or environmental residue but have not been aggressively cleaned or altered. This is an important distinction. A dirty 1915 penny with original surfaces is often more desirable than a cleaned coin that has lost its natural patina. Dirt does not necessarily mean damage. In many cases, the underlying details remain intact, protected by layers of grime. Collectors who understand this will often leave such coins untouched, valuing their originality. Improper cleaning can permanently reduce a coin's value, making a naturally dirty example preferable in the eyes of serious buyers. From a purely numerical standpoint, the 1915 one penny is not considered extremely rare, as millions were originally minted. However, true rarity in numismatics is often based on survival rates and condition, not just mintage figures. Over more than a century, countless pennies were lost, melted, or worn beyond recognition. As a result, the number of surviving examples in identifiable condition has steadily decreased. Collector demand for 1915 pennies remains strong, particularly because of the wartime connection. Even damaged or dirty coins attract interest from collectors who focus on World War I-era artifacts. There is also a growing segment of the market that values honest wear and prefers coins that clearly show their age and use. For these collectors, a dirty penny with visible history is far more appealing than a polished, lifeless example. Additionally, many collectors build date sets or monarch collections and require a 1915 penny regardless of condition. This ensures consistent demand and helps support auction prices even for lower-grade coins. The appeal of a dirty 1915 penny goes beyond numbers and metal content. Holding such a coin can evoke powerful imagery: a shopkeeper counting change during air raid fears, a factory worker buying food after a long shift, or a family stretching every penny during wartime hardship. These emotional connections add intangible value, making the coin desirable even when it lacks visual perfection. Now let's talk about what many viewers are most curious about: current auction market value in US dollars. Prices can vary depending on condition, eye appeal, and market timing, but general trends are well established. A heavily dirty or worn 1915 UK one penny typically sells for $431,000 in online auctions. Coins that are dirty but retain strong details often fall into the $325,000 range if the coin, despite being dirty, has clear lettering, a visible date, and no major damage such as holes or severe corrosion. It can attract bids of $122,000, especially when wartime interest is high. Exceptional circulated examples with appealing natural patina may sell for even more. While these values may seem modest, they represent a significant premium over face value and highlight the coin's enduring appeal. Several factors influence how much a dirty 1915 penny will sell for. Originality is crucial. Coins that appear uncleaned and untouched are more desirable. Visibility of the date and major design elements is another key factor. Coins with damage such as heavy corrosion, bends, or holes typically sell for less, though they may still attract niche collectors. Auction presentation also matters. Clear photographs, accurate descriptions, and historical context can significantly increase buyer interest. Coins sold during periods of heightened demand for World War I memorabilia often achieve higher prices. For collectors interested in acquiring or preserving a 1915 one penny, patience and education are essential. Avoid cleaning the coin, as this can permanently reduce its value. Store it in a dry, stable environment, ideally in a protective holder designed for coins. When buying, compare multiple examples to understand fair pricing and condition standards. Collectors on a budget should not shy away from dirty examples. These coins offer affordability, authenticity, and historical depth, making them excellent entry points into British numismatics. While the 1915 penny may not be a high-dollar investment, it holds strong long-term appeal. As time passes, World War I-era artifacts become increasingly significant, and demand for genuine pieces of that history is likely to grow. Even modest coins can appreciate steadily when supported by historical importance and collector interest. In conclusion, the United Kingdom 1 penny of 1915, even in dirty and heavily circulated condition, stands as a powerful symbol of history, resilience, and everyday life during one of the world's most challenging periods. Its wartime origins, classic design, and enduring collector demand ensure that it remains relevant and valuable more than a century after it was minted. With auction values ranging from a few dollars to several tens of dollars, this humble coin proves that significance is not defined by shine or perfection, but by story, survival, and authenticity. Whether you own one or are considering adding it to your collection, the 1915 UK 1 penny is a timeless reminder that even the smallest coins can carry the weight of history. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny dated 1967, examined specifically in fine condition. At first glance, the 1967 penny might seem like an ordinary copper coin, something many people remember jingling in their pockets decades ago. However, when viewed through the lens of history, collecting trends, minting context, and the modern auction market, this humble coin reveals a much richer story. In this video, we will carefully unpack that story, focusing on its background, distinctive design features, rarity perceptions, collector demand even in damaged condition, and, most importantly, its current auction market value expressed in US dollars. Whether you are a beginner collector, a seasoned numismatist, or simply someone curious about old British coins, this in-depth discussion will help you understand why even a common-looking penny can still hold interest and value today. To truly appreciate the United Kingdom 1 penny of 1967, we must first step back into the historical context of Britain in the late 1960s. This was a period of significant cultural, economic, and monetary transition. The British currency system at the time was still based on the pre-decimal structure, where £1 consisted of 20 shillings, and each shilling contained 12 pence, making 240 pence to the pound. The 1 penny coin was therefore an essential everyday denomination, used by virtually everyone in daily transactions. The 1967 penny was struck during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait appears on the obverse of the coin. By this point, Elizabeth II had already been on the throne for over 15 years, and her image had become a familiar symbol of stability in post-war Britain. The Royal Mint produced millions of pennies each year during this era to meet the needs of commerce, and 1967 was no exception. In fact, the mintage figures for 1967 are relatively high compared to some earlier dates, reflecting the heavy use and demand for small denomination coins in everyday life. However, while the year itself does not mark a dramatic turning point, it sits just a few years before one of the most important events in British monetary history, decimalisation in 1971. This looming change adds historical significance to all pre-decimal coins, including the 1967 penny. Collectors today often view these coins as representatives of a vanished monetary system, making them tangible reminders of how Britain once conducted its financial affairs. The design of the 1967 1 penny is deeply rooted in British tradition. On the obverse, we see the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This portrait, often referred to as the Machin head, shows the Queen facing right, wearing a laurel wreath. The design is elegant, restrained, and timeless, emphasizing dignity rather than grandeur. Surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription identifying the Queen and her title, a feature consistent with British coinage traditions dating back centuries. The reverse of the coin features the iconic Britannia design, created by Leonard Charles Wyon in the 19th century and reused on pennies for generations. Britannia is depicted seated, holding a trident and shield, symbolizing Britain's maritime power and national identity. For many collectors, this reverse design is one of the most beloved aspects of British copper coinage. By 1967, the Britannia design had already become a powerful symbol of continuity, linking modern Britain with its imperial and maritime past. In fine condition, the details of both sides remain clearly visible. The Queen's facial features, hair details, and laurel wreath are still distinct, while Britannia's trident, shield, and seated posture are easily identifiable. Although some wear is expected in a fine-grade coin, the overall design remains sharp enough to be visually appealing, which plays a crucial role in collector interest. The 1967 1 penny was struck in bronze, an alloy typically consisting of copper, tin, and zinc. This composition gives the coin its characteristic reddish-brown color, which can range from bright copper tones to darker chocolate hues depending on circulation, storage, and environmental exposure. The coin has a diameter of approximately 30.8 millimeters and a weight of about 9.45 grams, making it relatively large and substantial compared to many modern pennies. From a collector's perspective, bronze coins present both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, bronze ages beautifully when properly stored, developing attractive natural toning. On the other hand, Bronze is susceptible to corrosion, spotting, and surface damage if exposed to moisture or improper handling. As a result, finding a 1967 penny in fine condition without significant corrosion or cleaning marks can be more challenging than one might expect, even though the original mintage was high. The main design elements are still clear, but the highest points of the coin, such as Britannia's helmet or the Queen's hair, may show noticeable smoothing. The legends and date should remain readable, and there should be no major damage such as deep scratches, holes, or heavy corrosion. For the 1967 penny, fine condition represents a middle ground. It is not an uncirculated or mint-state coin, which would command a higher premium, but it is also far superior to heavily worn or damaged examples. Many collectors appreciate fine-grade coins because they balance affordability with visual clarity, making them ideal for historical collections or date sets. One of the most interesting aspects of modern coin collecting is the way damaged or unusual coins can still attract attention. Although the 1967 one penny is not considered rare in absolute terms, collector demand does exist for examples that show unusual characteristics, even in damaged condition. Coins with errors, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or double strikes, can be especially desirable, regardless of overall wear. Additionally, some collectors specialize in circulation finds or well-traveled coins, valuing the story told by a coin's wear patterns. A heavily worn or damaged 1967 penny might not be valuable in the traditional sense, but it can still hold interest as a representative artifact of everyday life in 1960s Britain. In certain niche markets, damaged coins with clear dates and identifiable designs can still sell for small premiums, especially when grouped in collections or lots. However, it is important to note that damage caused by cleaning, corrosion, or intentional alteration generally reduces value rather than increases it. Collectors tend to prefer natural wear over artificial damage, and this distinction plays a key role in determining auction prices. When discussing rarity, it is essential to distinguish between perceived rarity and actual scarcity. The 1967 one penny was minted in large numbers, meaning it is not rare in the strictest sense. Millions were produced, and many survive today. However, the perception of rarity can increase when collectors seek specific conditions, such as fine, very fine, or uncirculated examples with original surfaces. In recent years, interest in pre-decimal British coinage has grown, particularly among younger collectors who did not experience these coins in everyday use. This renewed interest has created modest demand pressure, especially for coins that are well preserved and visually attractive. As a result, even common dates like 1967 can experience fluctuations in market value depending on condition and presentation. Now let's turn to the question many viewers are most interested in: how much is a United Kingdom one penny 1967 in fine condition worth today in US dollars? The answer depends on several factors, including condition, eye appeal, and where the coin is sold. In general, a 1967 penny in fine condition typically sells for around 50 cents to $2 USD in online marketplaces and auctions. Coins with particularly pleasing color, minimal corrosion, and clear details may reach the higher end of this range. In some cases, a well-presented example sold through a reputable auction house or accompanied by professional grading can fetch slightly more. As mentioned earlier, usually sell for less, often in the range of 10 cents to 50 cents USD, unless they possess an unusual error or historical interest. On the other hand, coins graded higher than fine, such as very fine or uncirculated, can command prices ranging from $116,000 or more, depending on market demand at the time of sale. It is important to remember that coin values are not static. Auction results can vary based on timing, collector interest, and broader economic conditions. Therefore, these figures should be viewed as general guidelines rather than fixed prices. In recent auction trends, pre-decimal British pennies have shown steady, if modest, interest. While they are not investment-grade rarities, they benefit from a large and dedicated collector base. Many collectors aim to complete date runs or typesets, and the 1967 penny is a necessary component of such collections. Online auction platforms have made it easier than ever for collectors worldwide to access British coins, increasing international demand. This global reach means that even relatively common coins can find buyers willing to pay fair market prices, especially when sellers provide clear photographs and accurate descriptions. For collectors interested in adding a 1967 one penny to their collection, there are several important tips to keep in mind. First, always examine the coin carefully for signs of cleaning. Artificially cleaned coins often have unnatural shine or hairline scratches, which can significantly reduce value. Second, focus on overall eye appeal rather than just the numerical grade. A visually pleasing fine-grade coin can be more enjoyable to own than a higher-grade example with unattractive toning. Storage is another crucial consideration. Bronze coins should be kept in a dry, stable environment, ideally in acid-free holders or capsules. Avoid touching the surface with bare fingers, as oils can cause long-term damage. Finally, stay informed about market trends by regularly checking auction results and collector forums. Knowledge is one of the most valuable tools a collector can have. Beyond monetary worth, the 1967 one penny holds significant educational and historical value. It serves as a tangible connection to a time before decimalization, when Britain's currency system was fundamentally different from today's. For many collectors, this historical connection is just as important as financial value, if not more so. Coins like the 1967 penny also offer an accessible entry point into the hobby. Their affordability allows new collectors to learn about grading, preservation, and market dynamics without making a large financial commitment. In this sense, the coin plays an important role in sustaining interest in numismatics for future generations. In conclusion, the United Kingdom one penny dated 1967 in fine condition may not be a rare treasure commanding high auction prices, but it is far from insignificant. Its value lies in a combination of historical context, classic design, collector interest, and its place within the broader story of British coinage. With typical market values ranging from under $1 to a few dollars in fine condition, it remains an affordable and appealing piece for collectors around the world. Whether you are drawn to its elegant Britannia design, its connection to pre-decimal Britain, or simply the satisfaction of holding a well-preserved piece of history, the 1967 one penny has something to offer. As always, remember that the true value of a coin is not measured solely in dollars, but also in the stories it tells and the history it preserves. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into British coinage, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.